Do you want to smoke some fool in a Ferrari? But smoke. But you're worried that you can only afford a wimpy little Honda on your budget?
I also got this front fender. It's all rusted up here with V8 owner's tears.
Well, you may be in luck. There are some cars on the market today that have some serious horsepower, and they're affordable for us normal people. You know, the guys that have a little bit of lint and cash in their pockets. That's right. You don't have to be rolling around in dough to be a sports car slayer on the road. We're talking big numbers. And one car on this list hits a ridiculous 717 horsepower. And that's what I call power on a budget. And if you like power, you're not gonna wanna miss every single car on this list. Here are the cheapest cars out there right now, bar none, with over 500 horses. Want to get a whole lot of BMW beast mode for not a whole lot of money? The E60 is the younger brother to the more veteran E39. And this car could probably beat its older brother in a wrestling match because the E60 is taller, bigger, heavier, and more powerful. Under the hood, this M5 Bavarian land yacht rockets a Formula One inspired naturally aspirated 5-liter V10. And you guessed it, it's churning out 500 horses. Unfortunately, they did put a limiter on it. But if you were to take off the reins, which I know you'd want to, the E60 M5 could hit over 200 miles per hour. And that V10 engine we were just talking about hits an astronomical 8,250 RPM. And it sounds absolutely insane. Now, all of this sounds like it would cost a lot of dough. And you'd be wrong, because that is the best part about the E60 M5. You could roll away in one of these German pavement pulverizers for less than 20K. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the cheapest 500 horsepower cars you could find on this planet. Although they are one of the most unreliable cars ever made, so you've been warned. Because after all, you could safely assume fixing an F1 powered luxury car from Germany isn't gonna be cheap, and you can't pay for it in lint. So you can buy one for 20 and then make sure you have about half that stowed away for repairs. And down in the description, go find your ideal E60 M5 using the AutoTEMPEST links. I've linked to all the cars in this list, and a few of them are my absolute favorites. Like this next one on this list, because the USA is one of two things. They're extremely bad at pandemics, and they're extremely good at making high horsepower monsters on the cheap. I'm talking vets, like Corvette with a Z in front of it.
Salty!
The C6 Corvette Z06 is a sleek speed demon that has some serious muscle. And the engineers in Dearborn got pretty much everything right with this generation. See, it's got everything that's great with the C5 Corvette, and the engineers over at GM pretty much just turned it up to 11. And this, without a doubt, made a huge splash in the world of sports cars. And just one look at this thing and you know it means business. With those sharper fender peaks that makes the C6 look a whole lot meaner than its older brother, the C5. And let me just tell you right now, this thing is not all bark and no bite. It's almost the opposite. Does that even make sense? Yeah, you pop the hood and you got a 7-liter V8 staring right back at you. And that big block is ready to rev up those 505 horsepower. And I don't know about you, but that is more than enough power to have on the road. And the fact that you can pick up one of these absolute monster sports cars for under 30K, especially when you use the ideal car strategy so you can buy it like a pro, this thing is one of the ultimate ideal deals. And of course, I know that some of you guys out there aren't okay with 505 horse, and that's fine because they got the ZR1 as well. And now you're leveling up to 638 blistering horsepower. But you've been forewarned that that is at twice the price. Let's just say we're all very fortunate that GM made the Corvette, and that C6 chassis is just pretty much the sweet spots for miles per gallon. Or as I should say, smiles per gallon. Okay, enough about America. I can tell you're getting a little bit bored. And you guys know that you can't talk big horsepower numbers without talking about Benz. And you guys know about their itty bitty AMG program, don't ya? That little itty bitty program that doesn't only power big body Benzes, but also supercars like Pagani? Yeah, this Pagani Huayra has a supercharged AMG motor in it. And yes, you clicked on this video not expecting that you can afford a Huayra. And you would be right, but you may be able to get into a C63 AMG for a fraction of the price of the Huayra, that is. Straight out of Stuttgart, baby. This super swanky Mercedes-Benz AMG C63 507, which is definitely a mouthful, looks like a $100,000 plus car. But in reality, it'll blow your mind with how little it costs. And your friends, they don't need to know. So let's keep this secret between us. Because just look at this beauty. And I know you could imagine yourself behind the wheel, romping stomping on this supercharged V8. And the best part is it's not cheap per se, quote unquote, because it's in the neighborhood of $50,000. But when you look at the specs of the 507, you know this is a steal of a deal. This German cruiser has a force-fed 5.5 liter V8, and you keep hearing me call it the 507. You know why? Because that's exactly how many horsepower it has under the hood. Plus, the thing that I personally really like is that the styling is a bit more in your face than the typical Benzo. But I can see why they did that, because when you're talking about this kind of horsepower, you gotta make it a mean looking car, which is exactly what Benz did. And this thing isn't just a beast, it's also got the beauty. Pop open the door and you're met with some luxurious leather and a lot of tech features that make your ideal driving experience that much more enjoyable. All in all, I have to say this is an absolute amazing car for those of you that want to go fast without breaking the bank, as long as your bank account has 6 figures. Because if it doesn't, this next car might be the ideal car for you. And it may also have the same name as your ex-girlfriend. I want to see a raise of hand of those of you that have dated a Giulia. Well, if you have, that doesn't mean that you should rule out this next car on your quest for a fast car. Because say hello to your next girlfriend, Giulia. She's a sick-ass Italian speed machine that's certainly not lacking in the style department. I think both you and I know that the Italians are known worldwide for their fashion sense. And it is crystal clear that they've applied those skills to the world of car making as well. Because good old Giulia is definitely a neck snapper. Just look at that sleek V-shaped front grille, combined with those flowing lines that run all across the body, making it a one-of-a-kind visual experience. And she's also got some goods hanging out under the hood, because you got an all-aluminum 2.9 liter V6 that cranks out 505 horsepower. This car has got some serious kick in the pants, especially when you consider it has 443 foot-pounds of torque that this beautiful beast is capable of generating. Asphalt? Beware, because this wild Giulia is on the loose and ready to run any road from Rome to Rio. And you want to know what's even better than that? Yeah, tell me. You can buy one of these bad girls for under 50 grand. Again, that is a lot of money, but it's less than the C63 507. And I think it would be worth mentioning that historically, these have had some reliability issues. And it's not the ones like your previous Giulia, like no showing on a date. The Alfa Romeo Giulia likes to break down, and getting one repaired in the USA is pretty tough and not all that cheap. But still, for the price and the amount of power and the amount of smiles you get from this rig as well, I'd say the Giulia Quadrifoglio is a pretty good deal. And guys, I'm not trying to snake you at all. This next car is definitely cheaper than the last two.
Yeah, I know you're lying, but you sound excited.
And that might possibly be because it's a Chrysler. I mean, it's a Dodge, and it's got some serious horsepower. And with that serious horsepower, it has a price tag that's not gonna make you guys pout. So turn that frown upside down, because we're talking about the Dodge Hellcat. And this car's got so much power that it'll shoot you down the road like a bat out of hell, or a cat out of hell, I should say. Anyway, the Dodge Challenger Hellcat got some serious horsepower that it will make you believe that it came straight out of Satan's lair. Plus, just look at those friendly cat eyes. Those headlights send a message that this car is not to be messed with. And if we're talking about the brand new 2020 Challenger Hellcat, this thing shoots out an absolutely silly 717 horsepower, which, you know, is kind of a lot, I guess. But unfortunately, it's pretty expensive for those 717 horses, like 70K expensive. And although that isn't out of this world, if you want to buy a used example of the cat out of hell, you can find one for roughly $50,000, which, I mean, if you're talking about that kind of power, that is an absolute bargain. And not only that, this car comes standard with some lightweight 20-inch alloy wheels and some well-equipped Brembo brakes. And you know, if you accelerate that fast, you gotta be able to stop just as quickly. And those brakes are able to handle all the power that this Hellcat can put out. And as far as the earlier versions of this car, they have pretty low quality interiors. But after 2016, Dodge was doing less dodgy things and made some serious improvements as far as the cabin comfort goes. Overall, still to this day, used examples offer great quality and power for the price. And if you like American motors, the Dodge Challenger Hellcat is really a tough one to beat. And what's awesome is you got your choice of 2 or 4 doors. See, the Dodge Charger Hellcat got a much bulkier body than the Challenger brother, but the 6.2 liter supercharged V8, you know, the same engine that's in the Challenger Hellcat, is more than capable of propelling this cat's mass. And for the 2020 version, you can hit a top speed in this 4-door cruiser of 196 miles per hour. And the body of this car is looking to intimidate every other car on the drag strip with its wide body frame and menacing front grille configuration. So this 4-door sedan sounds like it would cost a lot of money on the used market as well, right? Wrong. You can have this kind of power at your disposal for roughly 50 grand as well, which is almost a little concerning considering how much performance you get. But in terms of angry looking super duper performance cars, the next car on this list might actually give the Hellcat brothers a run for their money. It's got a beefed up front bumper that makes it look like it's ready for like a demolition derby. The obvious first impression that you get when you glance at a Chevy, especially the Camaro ZL1, is unrestrained power. I mean, just look at that massive front grille. It just wants to suck in that air. Oh my God, suck in that air. And turn it into horsepower. Camaros have always looked like they were built for a ton of power, and the body design of the ZL1 just kicks it up a notch or three, because this car is definitely not a sheep in wolf's clothing. It came to do the business. And under that mean looking hood of the 2020 Chevy Camaro ZL1 is a 6.2 liter V8 capable of 650 horsepower. Unfortunately, this super powerful engine guzzles up gas faster than a fish drinks water. Wait, do fish even drink water? That's another debate for another time. The point of the matter is that the Camaro ZL1 gets a dismal 20 miles per gallon on the highway, which is pretty pathetic for fuel mileage today. But that is not why at all you buy this thing. You buy it for the performance. And brand new, a ZL1 is gonna hit your bank account for roughly 63,000 bucks. And if you're looking at the secondhand market, you can get an older model for roughly 40 grand, which is not a bad deal at all considering you're getting an engine of that caliber. And now for the next car on this list, which is a little bit of a curveball because it's a badass caddy that's gonna blow your socks off with its performance and serenade you with its style. And I hate to break it to you guys that have been watching this video and are still afraid to buy a stick shift, because this is one of those cars that you won't be able to enjoy if you're stuck on your automatic ways. Because the Cadillac CTSV is definitely not a car that you wanna miss out on. It's pretty much a four-door Corvette. And despite having that classic Cadillac styling, under the hood hides a supercharged 6.2 liter V8 that churns out a super impressive 640 horsepower. And if that doesn't get your blood going, well, I don't know what does, because 0 to 60 comes in under 4 seconds. And when you top out that 6th gear, you're looking at a top speed of over 200 miles per hour. And the thing that I love about Cadillac is that if you say that you drive a Cadillac to your friend, they think Escalade or your grandpa's car. And while the Escalade is a super powerful SUV and your grandpa's car does have a bunch of luxury, the CTSV is just a whole different animal. And while new, they are roughly $90,000 MSRP. You can get your greedy little hands on an older model, which remember is a supercharged mid-sized luxury sedan for a little over 40 grand. I bet you can start to see yourself sitting in some Cadillac luxury with all that power to toot it and boot it. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, the one thing that we've learned so far is that Dodge loves horsepower. And this Road Ripper is an absolute statement piece from Dodge. It's hot, it's loud, and it is fast. And the Dodge Viper takes absolutely no prisoners with its odd-firing V10 engine. And this thing spits out a ridiculous 500 horsepower. And when you get this engine into the high revs, this snake starts spitting out straight up venom. Sure, your neighbors might start to hate you for just ripping your Viper around the block, but who cares? You're driving the American badass supercar. And this car is strictly for those of you that love driving. The Trim X 6-speed manual transmission is the only option in this car. And if you want something that looks this unique and will put a smile on your face every time you turn the key, the Dodge Viper might be the golden ticket for you at around 40 grand. That is, if you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of comfort and safety. Trust me, I drove one back from Omaha to Seattle, and this is so much fun to drive, but it's about as safe as wrestling a real Viper, and it just always wants to bite you in the ass. And next up is a new version of an American classic, but this car definitely doesn't drive like an old timer, not at all. The GT500 is absolutely iconic when it comes to a car with a lot of muscle. The sound of this thing rumbling down the road just is music to my ears. And when you hop behind the wheel, this thing absolutely does not skimp on power, and you can feel all of it in your butt dyno. And you're probably wondering, how much is that? Well, if you clicked on this video and you made it this far, I'll give you two guesses. No, it's not 499 horsepower, Joe. It's got a supercharged gas drinking V8. It's 500. Plus, these cars are crazy inexpensive because you could have all that American muscle for under 30 grand. And since they've been building these Shelby GTs since the 60s, you'll be buying into a long legacy of road-ripping beast machines. But I know a few of you, again, are just absolute power addicts, and you could buy a 3rd gen Citroen GT500 that cranks out a whole 760 horsepower. That is if you got 70,000 bucks. So out of all of these performance dollar for dollar, I'm thinking that C6 Z06 is the ideal deal. What's yours? Let us know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you're new here, my name's Brad Danger. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, because we're throwing the heat pretty much every single day. And as always, keep living the ideal lifestyle.